So this unit is ready to introduce these lessons for beginner levels. We're not in a master level yet. Chinese painting takes a lot of practices, and we like to show you what a finished work from a beginner might look like.
Here I have a sample of student work. This was done by an 8th grade student in a past year, and here you can see they painted the bamboo. It's made up primarily of 4 different brush strokes, or 4 different pieces. Here is the stalk of bamboo right here, which is 1 brush stroke. Second is the notch right here. And I have this piece of bamboo so you can sort of see what we're talking about here. So here's the stalk, and here is the notch right here. And then we have branches that extend off, and then the leaves. So another example of student work that's similar, but is the student is using a darker ink wash. Again, doing the stalks. There are notches in here, the branches, and then the leaves. And then this last example is a nice example of some different variety and sort of a happy accident that sometimes happens with doing the body of the bamboo. Here you can see the brush sort of skipped up a little bit, lifted up, and left a little bit of a white spot. So that shows a little bit more value, that's light and dark in the piece, and it also gives it a sense of texture and of 3-dimensionality as it's in highlight here throughout the stalk. We're going to begin by painting the body of bamboo. So that's this bit here, that's a cylinder. And we'll be doing a stroke and then pause and then stroke to continue the piece of bamboo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the drills that I make my students do first. So you'll be beginning by dipping your brush, and I'm using sort of a medium to large size brush because we're going to be doing a wide stalk. And the act that we're going to be doing is we'll be pressing down like this and pushing forward. And by pressing down and kind of creating that foot shape, you're going to have the nice width of the body of the bamboo. So, so I'm going to dip my brush in some ink. If I dip it in just one tone, it will give me kind of a solid black. If I go into sort of a gray and then maybe add a little bit of black just to the tip, it will give sort of a gradation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hand upright like this. I'm going to press down. I'm going to extend away from my body. I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to lift up. And you'll get that nice wide bit there. I'm going to use the water to sort of, the edge of the water cup to kind of get my brush back into shape. And then I'm going to do my next, I'm going to press down and extend away from my body and then lift up. The next brush stroke we're going to do is going to represent this sort of curved notch right here. And this helps give the illusion of volume if you add a little bit of a curve to it, and really makes it look like real bamboo. So again, I start off by teaching my students how to do the stroke. I use a small brush, and you can see this is a pretty small brush right here. And I use a darker ink for it, darker than what I used for the body. And I've seen it done a couple of different ways. One way is sort of going down, over, and back up, and having a slight curve to it. And I've also seen it sort of up like that. So it sort of looks like a stretched out N or a stretched out H. But what you don't want to do is you don't want it to look like an N or an H. You really want to have this sort of nice kind of, that kind of thing. So we're going to look at a student example again, and at this point we're going to practice and do drills for the branches. You want to use a thin brush for this because a thick brush is going to be too difficult to manage. And what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to use a darker ink. I'm going to start with a small amount of pressure, going straight down, and then I'm going to extend out. And that's it. It's sort of a small amount of pressure, so there's a wider base, and you're going to extend out. You can try and do branches extending off of branches, and you're going to want to get thinner as they go out. Doesn't always work that way, but certainly try. Next, we're going to do leaves, and leaves to me are the hardest part. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bring your brush forward and then back, and you're going to sort of lift up as you go. Another option is you can sort of press down and create a triangle and brush out. The second option works very well, but it's not very traditional. So I'm going to try and do this slowly. Let's see, if you're going to go one direction, then you're going to go the other, and then lift up. Another option is you can press down to create sort of a triangle and then pull out. It doesn't come out quite as professionally, but it might be a little bit easier if you're having a really hard time. So go one direction and then come out. Or again, triangle and then out. So at this point, I'm going to ask that my students fill up an entire page of each type of brush stroke, practicing and doing drills. The good, the bad, and the ugly, you want to keep them all, and you're just going to fill up your whole page. So here are some samples of some students practicing doing different parts. You can see here, actually, this one is in a full page of some different notches. You can see some more successful and some less successful, and then also some leaves here. So now we're going to put all of the steps together. I'm going to do a simple composition, and a composition just refers to the way that an artist sets up a page. And I'm just going to do a few pieces of bamboo that are sort of slightly off center. You don't want to have everything right in the center, or you don't want to fill it up like prison bars. You want to keep it simple, and you want to think of balancing like a flamingo balances on one leg, as opposed to how a paper doll or a stick figure balances on two legs. You want to kind of keep it relaxed. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load up my brush with some ink to do my first stalk. I'm going to put the pressure, extend out, release. I'm going to do a second one. Next, I'm going to add the notches, and I'm going to use a darker ink. And these are those sort of H or N shaped ones. And I'm going to go up, over, down. Keeping it simple. You won't see the whole one up here. There we go. The next part, I'm going to use also a sort of darker ink, and I'm going to do a branch. I'm going to have my branches, you don't kind of want them just sticking out of the center here. You want them sort of angling off from sort of the notch area. And I'm going to put pressure, and then I'm going to have one go in front here. And I'm going to have that one branch out. And then I'll do maybe a second one extending over here with another branch coming out from them. Lastly, I'm going to do the leaves, and I'm going to use a darker ink for this and sort of my bigger brush. And I'm really going to load my brush up with some nice dark ink and sort of dab it off on the side of my pan here. And I'm going to go one way and then back out, and then in and back out. I'm going to go off the page here. That's why it's nice to have that newsprint underneath you. And I'm going to go up. That one's kind of long. And I'm going to do sort of a partial one right here. And again, I'm doing towards and then away. Towards it, away. Towards and away. Will do. So again, here are the basic pieces that we put together. We did the long stroke for the trunk, we did the thin branches, we did the notches, and we also did the leaves. So those are the 4 different elements put together. Some suggestions for what you want to avoid. We really don't want to see too many small leaves clustered together, all touching. You don't want to repeat the same number of leaves too often. You want to have a variety, but these are all too close together so that they kind of look like claws. So we'd like to avoid that. You should probably avoid any bent bamboo pieces. I think I have another example. We don't want our bamboo going off into different directions. It's fun for a creative approach, but for something that truly looks like a Chinese brush painting, we want to avoid these sort of spaghetti noodle bamboo stalks. What will I be graded on? The first thing you'll be graded on are your studio habits. I expect that you will behave like the scholar in his studio, and you will clean up after yourself and use materials properly. Second, you will be graded on properly applied bamboo elements. You should have the stalk, the notch, the branches, and the leaves all placed appropriately in relationship to one another. Next, I should see evidence of value. And value, we're talking about light and dark. You should have a range of gray scales from the lightest light to the darkest dark ink. Last, you'll be graded on composition. That is how you chose to set up your page.